All right, so we're going to start talking about all the different kinds of quadrilaterals that there are, but we're going to focus on the ones that are considered parallelograms. Okay, definition of a parallelogram is that the opposite sides are parallel, and all of these shapes today have opposite sides that are parallel. Okay, but some of them have different names that are more specific. So we want to just put a check in the boxes for which the property on the left is true. So there's a picture down on the bottom of each of these shapes. Let's just go one shape at a time. So parallelogram. Are all four sides the same length? No. Are opposite sides the same length? Yes, the ones across from each other are definitely the same. Are opposite sides parallel? Yeah, that's the definition of a parallelogram. What about the opposite angles? They're the same. Are the angles all right angles? No. Do the diagonals cut each other in half? Yes. Are the diagonals the same length, these two red lines? This one right here is longer than this one right here. Okay, so they're not the same length as each other. Are the diagonals perpendicular in the middle? Do they make a right angle? No, they don't. Do the diagonals cut these angles in half? No, they don't. They don't. Good guess. All right, a rhombus. What would be the definition of a rhombus, or another name for it? A diamond. Okay. What do we know about a rhombus? What's its main characteristic? All four sides are the same length. Okay, so that's a diamond or a rhombus. All right, so that answers our first question. All four sides are the same length. Are the opposite sides the same? Parallel? Opposite angles? Are all the angles right angles? No, they are definitely not. Do the diagonals cut each other in half? Are the diagonals the same length? Is this vertical one the same as the horizontal one? No. Are the diagonals perpendicular? Yes, they are. Do these red lines cut the angles into two equal angles? Yes, they do. This chart will be very helpful to you when you're answering questions on your homework. All right, a rectangle. Are all four sides the same? Opposite sides. Opposite sides parallel. Opposite angles the same. All the angles are right angles. Yes. Diagonals cut each other in half. Are the diagonals the same length? Are the diagonals perpendicular? No. Do the diagonals cut these angles into two equal angles? Definitely not. Okay, what would be the main characteristic of a rectangle, would you say? Equal angles is the biggie. This one is opposite sides parallel. This one is all sides congruent, and this one is all angles congruent. Let's go through a square. First one. Second one. Third. Fourth. This one. This one. This one is. And this one. It's all of them. Okay. What would be the characteristic of a square? So a square has two things that have to be true. It has to have all sides congruent and all angles congruent. Okay, so those are the main characteristics of those four shapes. They have others, but those are what kind of define them. Questions on this? Everyone's got the right X's, so we can move on? Okay, so let's just highlight a few of these right here. So we're just going to add some markings to these pictures to match the sentence. So each diagonal of a rhombus bisects two angles of the rhombus. Okay, so that's what this would mean, that this diagonal is going to bisect two angles, the top one and the bottom one. And the other diagonal is also going to bisect two angles. So if it's a rhombus, we know that's going to be true. Now if it's a rhombus, we know that the four sides are the same length as well. So what they're going to do is they're going to put algebra on some of these things, and we have to know how to set them up based on these properties. Okay, the diagonals of a rhombus, so if it's a rhombus, let's put these on here, 4 equal sides. The diagonals are perpendicular. Okay, so putting these two ideas together, we got angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, angle 4. We want to know how big each of these angles are using these two properties, this one up here and this one right here. How big is angle 1? Angle 1 is 90. What else do we know? 2 is 50. And 3 is 50. Because up here it says that these two angles are the same. Okay, so we've got 50 and 50. So if this one is 90 and this one is 50, how big is the last guy? 40. Because we need to have 180 degrees in a triangle. Right there. So if it's a rhombus, we know that it's true, and I should have stated that this was in fact a rhombus. Questions on that? We're good? Okay, let's try a few more. Area of a rhombus. Have you guys seen this yet this year? This equation? Okay. We're going to use it from here until the end of the year, but this works for other shapes as well, which we'll get to later. But the area of a rhombus, the formula, which you don't have to memorize because it's on the formula sheet, is 1/2 d1 d2, and d just stands for the diagonals. Make sure you use the entire diagonal length, not just half of it, when you do this. Okay, so let's look at this example. It's a working backwards one. So how long is this segment over here? X, and how long is this one? Okay, so if we have our formula, A equals 1/2 d1 d2. Remember, anytime we do a formula or a area problem, we have 3 lines of work. We have our formula, the numbers put in, and our answer. And that goes from here until June. Okay, so now we'll put in the numbers we know, but I need to erase A because what's going to go in for A? Yeah, the actual area that they gave us, 56 equals 1/2. Now we need to put in the 2 diagonal lengths. What are they? 8. Everyone see where we got 8? We have to use the entire diagonal. So we've got 8 here. How long is the other one? 2x. Okay, all the way across is 2x. Now we just multiply these all together. Okay, 1/2 times 8 times 2.
It doesn't matter which way you put it, 4 and 1. So you can put the D2 in front of the D1.
You mean the order of these?
Yeah.
The order of these?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what order you put them in. So if we take 1/2 times 8 times 2, we get what? What's 1/2 times 8 times 2? 8. And then we still have our x on there.
Wait, you can do that when it has an X?
Yep. It would be just like 4 times 7x. Yep. Yep. Okay, so now we just divide by 8 and we get what? 7. No units, so we don't need units on our answer. Questions? Use the formula, put in the numbers you know, solve for x. All right. These will go quickly because the whole sentence is written for you. We just got to add something to the picture. So if the diagonals of a parallelogram are, what does this mean? Perpendicular. So then we'll put this in here. So if the diagonals are perpendicular, then we know it's a rhombus. So if they just give you a parallelogram and they say there's a right angle in the middle, you know automatically that you have 4 equal sides because those go hand in hand together. Questions on that? Last page. All right, if it's a rectangle, then the diagonals are congruent. So what 2 segments can I say are the same? Say that again? We want the diagonals. So which ones are the diagonals? AC is one of them, right here. And BD. Those are the same length. So let's review really quickly. What's the main property of a rhombus?
All right sides.
4 congruent sides. Rectangle?
All right angles.
So 4 90-degree angles or 4 congruent angles. And a square? Yep.
So a rectangle, as long as it has all congruent angles.
Yep, which would be 90. Yep, it's going to be a
So it has to
rectangle.
be 90.
Yep.
Okay.
And a square? 90-degree angles and 4 congruent sides. Okay, so let me ask you this. One last question. Is a rectangle a square? Okay. Is a square a rectangle? This one is yes. This one is sometimes, depending on how long the sides are. Right. So basically the first one is no, not always. But a square is always a rectangle because a rectangle just means it has 4 right angles in it. Questions? Alrighty.